Welcome to Sane-ish, the podcast for people healing from trauma, addiction, abuse, mental health struggles, grief, narcissists, and every other flavor of chaos life can throw at you. And somehow still functioning, mostly. I'm your host, Holley Broughton, survivor, truth teller, boundary setter, and proud member of the Still Healing, Still Hilarious Club. Around here, we don't do shame or embarrassment. We don't do perfection. Just real talk, dark humor, hard truths, and a whole lot of hope. Because sanity is overrated. And healing, that shit is messy. This is Sane-ish. Let's get into it. Disclaimer. On the Sane-ish podcast, we discuss personal stories of alcoholism, addiction, mental health, chronic illness, narcissistic abuse, domestic violence, SA, HT, parental alienation, grief, loss, homelessness, as well as many other forms of adversities in life. Our intention is to be inspirational, educational, identifiable, and resourceful. The views and experiences shared are in no way meant to praise or condone any illegal or harmful behavior. This content is for educational purposes only and not intended as professional advice. If you or someone you know is struggling with any of the above, we strongly suggest seeking help from a qualified professional, support service, or hotline related to your specific issue. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sane-ish podcast. I'm Holley Broughton, and today, guess what? We have another one of my friends joining us. This friend of mine, let's see, how long have I known her? Oh, yeah, for as long as I've been sober, which has been 19 years. Yeah, yep. So this woman entered my life when I first got sober, and she was at my home group back in Charlotte, North Carolina. And, she was a very integral part of my sobriety because she was very loving, but she was very forceful. And the reason I say that is because when I was a year sober, she didn't ask me. She said, "You're going to this big book study." I said, "Okay." And so, which honestly, I was reluctant to go, but in retrospect, it actually was well worth it. It was a commitment for me and everybody else in it. And there were a lot of things that, I was very reluctant to do. But in retrospect, I'm so, so grateful that she had me do that, because I always reflect back on that time, and it was very well worth it for me. And I laugh at it now because I'm very grateful for her. And she's been throughout my sobriety, and she's been a huge part of my sobriety, and I love her to death. So anyway, without further ado, hey, Julie. Welcome.
Hello.
I know you're laughing too because you know the story. So welcome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Welcome to Sane-ish.
Thank you.
So grateful you're here.
It's good to be here. Me too. I'm grateful to be anywhere.
Me too. So go ahead and fill us in. Like, start us at the beginning. Like, where were you born? How did you get here? Like, all that stuff.
All right. Well, let's see. I was born in Libya, of all places. I don't think it's a place I'd want to go back to today, but yeah, Libya, Africa. Um, my dad was in the Air Force, and he was actually stationed in Athens, Greece. I guess my mother flew to Libya to be at a specialized hospital. So we were there for, I guess, a couple of weeks, and then went back to Athens, Greece, and then came here to Myrtle Beach, where I live now. And my first resentment was born. That was my brother. And, I didn't really know it at the time. But yeah, so, we lived here in Myrtle Beach for a couple of years, and then my dad decided he wanted to be a rock and roll singer. So we moved to a little town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and my dad opened up a supper club. From the time I was 3 to the time I was 7, my dad performed in this supper club at night and would rehearse during the day. And unfortunately, that's where a guy in my dad's band got a hold of me and did things that today are not normal. I wouldn't recommend anybody having to go through that, but I thought it was normal. I did. When I was 7, my dad had told me that he was moving, that he was going to be taking his band on the road. I knew that the abuse was going to stop, but I was losing my daddy in the process, and I was not happy about that. And he left. He left with my mom, and it was just my mom and my brother and I, and we ended up moving to Charlotte, which is my hometown. Charlotte was a lot different back in the 70s. And it's grown like tremendously. But, back then it was still kind of like a country, laid back, kind of place to grow up. And I remember when I was 9, I had my first drink. My girlfriend and I were going to have a little seance to bring back all our dead animals. And um, she had stole a little pint of Jack Daniels from her parents, and I stole 2 joints from mine, and we proceeded to go underneath an apartment complex and had the candle and the Ouija board and made sure it was really nice and dark in there. And I remember taking a sip of that Jack Daniels and I spit it out all over the place because it tasted so bad. I can still taste it today. And I ended up blacking out. First time I drank, I blacked out. And she blacked out too. And unfortunately, we were followed there by 4 teenage boys. And in the process of us blacking out, we were both and pretty badly beaten, pretty bad. By the time this was during the summer, and by the time we got to school, everybody knew what had happened. It was all over. All of our friends, everybody knew what happened, and it was a pretty dark place to be. That's really where I started to feel different. I didn't feel better than or less than. I just felt different from other people that were around me. I threw myself into schoolwork. I was an artist. I was a gymnast. I was a dancer. And I was good at anything that I had really put my mind to. So as far as drinking alcohol went, I didn't do that for quite a while, but I did get introduced to yellow jackets and black beauties with speed. Speed was always more of my thing. I wasn't into Quaaludes and Valiums and Xanax and stuff like that, unless I was trying to come down later on in my years of using. Did a lot of drugs, but by the time I was 15, I would say that I had already formed a habit, even though I didn't really know it. Once I started, I couldn't stop, and I didn't think that it was drugs and alcohol. I thought it was just life, just circumstantial. One day I was going to the pool, and a little friend of the family's asked me if I wanted to smoke a joint, and I was like, sure. So I went into his apartment and we smoked a joint. And I remember going, God, this tastes like it's got something in it. And he said it does. It's called angel dust. And I don't remember what happened for the next 10 hours, but apparently because I ended up pregnant. And my mother found out I was pregnant, and I told her what happened, and she threw me out. She threw me out of the house. And I was devastated because I was getting ready to go to high school. I wanted to get a driver's license. I wanted to go to high school and also wanted to try out for the Junior Olympics as a gymnast. And in one instance, all that changed. And so I ended up going to a local drug dealer's house, and it was the only place I knew to go. And, his name was Tim, and I remember knocking on the door. And I remember him opening the front door and all the pot smoke came out and it smelled so good and this loud music's playing and it's Boston Don't Look Back is what was playing. And I went in and I told him what was going on and he's like, I'll take care of you. You could come stay with me. So that's what I did. For the next 2 years, all we did was party and he kept me locked up in a box that he built underneath his bed for 2 years. That's where I stayed. And, he was very abusive sexually, emotionally, physically. I got the hell beat out of me probably every day. But after 2 years, I snapped. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I got myself out of the box. And I remember going into the living room and I picked up a pair of scissors and I went for this guy's neck. I was going to kill him. They were cutting little corner baggies for cocaine and I was going to kill him. And the next thing you know, the police are there and I'm sitting in the back of a police car, butt ass naked, crying, black and blue. And I ended up going to jail and they arrested me for assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill. I ended up going to prison for that. And, I wasn't even able to get out of jail. I mean, I was in jail, I think, for about 9 months. And then, they shipped me off to Raleigh, North Carolina, and 1034 Bragg Street. I'll never forget it. I was just like in such a whirlwind. I was so angry, even though I didn't know that it was fear at the time. I was so angry. My cellmate actually looked a lot like I do today. She had long, beautiful, grayish white hair. She was 60. I'm 61. She had put her baby in a microwave and fed it to her husband.
Oh
So
my
this is the
gosh.
kind of women that yeah, I got to hang out with those kind of women. I was there for 2.5 years and I was not a nice person. I was not somebody that you wanted to fuck with, just to be honest. Um,
Mm.
and when I went to live in New York, went to New York to live with my dad and his band, and that didn't work out too well. I ended up stealing the neighbor's car, and as soon as I came into Myrtle Beach, the blue lights were on, and I was on parole, and I just knew I was going back to prison, and I was just like, please. Now, I have to say, I didn't believe in God, didn't grow up with a God, and I knew that I was going to end up going back to prison. Well, come to find out, this guy decided not to press charges, and I was able to walk out of that little Myrtle Beach jail. And I had a little tiny bag of clothes. I know where the jail is, but I don't know where I went. I don't remember what strip club I walked into to get a job. I don't remember where I lived. 3 years, I don't remember anything about being in Myrtle Beach. All I remember is where the police station was because there's one, it's still there. And I was in one big blackout for 3 years. And by the time I had, pretty much ran out of options here in Myrtle Beach. I remember calling my mom and asking her if I could come home. She put me on a Greyhound bus, and I ended up going back to Charlotte. I couldn't work. I was unemployable. I couldn't do anything that pretty much was legal. Let's just say that. So, it was pretty hard back then, because I just wanted to party and once I started, I couldn't stop. And I would steal, I would do whatever I needed to do to support my habit. And, I just remember getting to a point where, that this is not a way that I wanted to live. By the time I was 23, I had been arrested 70 something times and I was facing 25 years back in prison. And
Did you
I
did you ever
remember,
feel like did you Did it ever get to a point I know when you were younger, you probably it was probably experimentation, but as things progressed, did it ever get to a point where you just started drinking and using because you were trying to escape the feelings?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
That's why I
okay.
drank and did drugs. I didn't feel.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Uh,
Just because of
yeah.
what happened? Yeah,
Because of circumstances. Yes.
yeah, okay.
Exactly. I mean, I don't believe that you can be born an alcoholic or a drug addict. Just I personally don't believe that. I believe that, you have to somehow or another, there's a line that's crossed and I crossed it and there was no going back.
Yeah,
And I've seen it with other areas of addiction in my life through the years. But yeah, I was in a lot of trouble and I ended up appearing in front of a judge and they I went to detox for 10 days. It was in downtown Charlotte and then they sent me to Greensboro for a 28-day program. I'll tell you that that baby was aborted in a way that never allowed me to have children. And when I was in treatment in Greensboro, I got my GED. I cheated on it, but I got it. So that was one good thing that came out of treatment. And I came back and the judge said, you're going to go to these meetings and you're going to have urine tests and you're going to find a job and you're going to pay back restitution. And, he had a whole list of things that he told me I needed to do. And if I didn't, I would do 25 years flat. And I knew he meant business, and I did not want to go back to prison. So I started going to these meetings and different 12-step meetings. And I got my little piece of paper signed, and then I went to the bar. Then I went to this place called Whispers. That's where I would hang out. And this was in 1987, 88, and 89. And I did that for 3 years. And then one day, I was actually here at the beach at a convention, and my mother had called the hotel to get in touch with me and told me that my dad's leopard had killed my 2-year-old sister. And I remember hanging up the phone, walking into the bar, and I ordered a drink. I picked up a drink. It was a White Russian. I did not even finish that drink, but I knew that I could only imagine the pain that my father must have been in because I mean him and I were really close. But yeah, I picked up a drink. And I remember I went back to Charlotte the next day. It was on a Saturday. Went back to Charlotte the next day, picked up another white chip, and 2 weeks later all my charges were dropped. And I went to Atlanta to work for the Hollywood Madam. That was my job. Within 6 months, I was living on the streets of Atlanta. Because once I started, I couldn't stop, and it didn't matter what it was. That was a horrible existence for me. And, I knew that part of me wanted to live, but a bigger part of me, I think, really wanted to die, because I was just full of so much rage. Had no idea that it was fear, but the rage was unbelievable. I was just one angry, angry person. And, this was at a time where we had payphones and you could actually call information if you knew someone's name and you could get a phone number. And that's what I did. I called this man that I met in Charlotte who lived in Atlanta. And that man came and he picked me up and he took me back to his house. The next day, he ended up taking me to a meeting. And that was December 12th of 1991. And I've been sober ever since. So I'm in my 35th year. I was homeless. I had no idea where I was going to live, how I was going to eat, how I was going to take care of myself. But back during that time, there were different places that you could go and they would feed you. They would make sure that you had clothes and they would, help you get on your feet. And that's what I did for the next 6 months. I did hear a woman say that she shot and killed her first husband. So I asked her if she would be my sponsor. Because that was the part I could relate to. And she became my sponsor. And I knew that I needed to do things a little differently that I had done previous, but
Julie,
you know,
can we back up a little bit? When
yeah,
when your charges were dropped, what made you w- like weren't you like happy that your charges were dropped, and what made you like go to Atlanta and then work for the madam?
because
Like
I had
what was
gotten
your
into the escort business
I know what I guess what was your line of thinking? In like for me, I would be like, "Yay, my charges are dropped. Yay." Okay, but I guess I'm trying to figure out what your thinking was. Probably I don't think my first line of thinking would be, "Hey, my charges were dropped. I think I'm gonna go be an escort." You know what I mean?
I was already an escort.
Okay, gotcha. I got it.
I
Okay.
was
That I
already
that
an
that
escort. And when my charges were dropped, I was like, this is fantastic. Now I can get the hell out of Charlotte and go to
got it.
Atlanta.
Got it.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was like a stepping
Uh,
stone. Yeah.
I understand now. Okay. All right. Onward. So now
Yeah.
now you're sober.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay.
Now I get sober, still in the escort business, and because it was the only line of work that I knew I could do. Didn't have any transportation, didn't have a place to live, but I was able to finally find a place to live, and I was able to get enough money together to get a car, and slowly for the first 3.5 years of not drinking and not using was I was able to get my own little place to live and try to create a life for myself. And then I met my first husband who as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I'm going to marry that man. I knew I was going to marry him. It was Went to jail for stalking him and then got married, but that's a whole that was a whole nother ball. But Rick was a good guy. He was good. He was extremely wealthy, and we were together for a total of almost 15 years. And that was a lifestyle I had never known before. The big house and the cars and I mean, it was over the top. And he couldn't stay sober, couldn't stay faithful. And I ended up, divorcing him. Went to live in Tucson, Arizona, and went to work for the Department of Corrections. And was working with level 5 sex offenders. And these boys were never going home. It was so sad, but that's where I learned that hurt people, because what these boys had experienced was the same thing I had experienced. They just chose to hurt others, where it's very rare that you find a woman that molests, that's a child molester. It's mostly men. So I was out there for 2 years and then moved back to Charlotte, and that's when I met you. I bought a Harley Davidson and was working at the jewelry store, and that's when I met you. And that's when I was 18 years sober at that time. What a trip that was.
You're welcome.
Oh my God. I thought I was such a badass riding around on that Harley. Man. Yep. So I was there for 2 years and then ended up coming here to Myrtle Beach to 12-step convention. And I met the man of my dreams, and we ended up getting married. We've been together for 16 years, and I lost him 10 months ago. He passed away, and his name was Scott. And Scott was kind of sickly. He had a lot of ailments, and I've continued to stay sober and to live spiritually. And, as a result of doing a lot of work, the one thing I want to say, when you marry a millionaire, you can get really good therapy. And I needed it. 3.5 years. When I was 3.5 years sober, I did go to a treatment center to deal with childhood sexual abuse. Needed that desperately. Had 20 years of therapy, and actually it's probably been more like 25 years of therapy. And I've needed every bit of it. I work a 12-step program that has scratched the surface of a lot of issues, but those underlying deep traumatic experiences that I had to come to terms with, gave me the ability to turn that fear into love that had been running my life for so long. So today, I really try to come from a place of love and understanding and acceptance and all of the good things that life has to offer. Instead of acting like a victim, and coming from a place of fear and hatred and resentment and all that other stuff that just destroys so many lives. So it's been quite a ride. Quite a ride it's been. And I have a little condo here in Myrtle Beach. I'm about 5 miles from the ocean. So it's a great place to live. I've got a great support group here. I have great friends here, and my mother also lives here. So I don't know how much longer she'll be here. I think she's gonna end up going to live out with my brother in Washington State. But for right now, she's here. So I just try to be the best daughter I can be and take care of what needs to be done to help her out. So I guess that's really pretty much, I could say my dad died in 2022 from COVID, which was devastating for me. He was my rock star, he was everything to me. And that was tough. That was really tough. It's not that I wanted to drink or anything like that. It was just emotionally it was really hard. But I guess that's really about all I got, Miss Holly. I can't think of
Well,
anything else, so I'm gonna let you.
well, what would you like others to take away from your story? Like, what would you hope that others would like who are trying to seek recovery to take away from your story?
Well, I guess first and foremost would be that if I can do this, anybody can do it. It doesn't matter what our past looked like, what we've experienced. If you're willing to do the work, you too can have the life that I have today, which is I'm happy, joyous, and free most of the time instead of restless, irritable, and discontented. But it takes work. It takes a lot of work. I believe that, putting down the drink and the drug is the easy part. It's allowing the changes. Well, first, I can't recover from something I don't know I have. So it
Mhm.
has to be, I need people in my life to point things out to me. And a lot of the answers come from writing. Lyrics and music has been very helpful. Some things that some lines that I hear in movies. Um, there's always something that sparks something within me of, I probably need to take a look at that. It doesn't happen so much now as it used to because I have done a lot of work. I'll always be a work in progress. That's for sure. Um,
Mhm.
but I do like and love who I've become, in recovery. So
Good. Well, do you know what your purpose is? Have you found your purpose in recovery?
my purpose is, yes, my purpose is to help others, to love them until they're able to love themselves, and just to be available, to have compassion and unconditional love for those that struggle with self. It's not even so much struggling with outside circumstances as it is with self, what's going on the inside. That's
And
my
then what
purpose.
would and then what would your personal message be to someone who is seeking recovery or maybe having a hard time with recovery? What would be your
Don't
personal message to them?
Personal message would be don't quit before the miracle because you are the miracle.
Good. Okay. Well, Thank you for being one of my miracles in the program. Anyway, we're laughing because we know the inside joke, or whatever it was. I'm not sure. People, I used to do jewelry. Julie does jewelry. We used to go on many gym shows too, as well. A lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff together. So it's been a joy just being with you. And we've been to people who we've known. So it's also been sad. Anyway, okay. Well, we will end the podcast with, I always like to end the podcast with 10 questions, 10 questions. And it's a kind of fun way to end the podcast. So are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. All right. First question. What skill would you like to ultimately master and why?
What skill would I ultimately like to master and why?
Yeah.
I would like to learn how to play piano.
Really? What, classical or what? What kind?
Just learn how to play piano.
Chopsticks or?
No, I wouldn't say classical, but be like Elton John.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, what has been the highlight of your life thus far and why?
Who's been the highlight of my life?
What has been the highlight of your life thus far and why?
My
What?
recovery.
Okay. I figured
What?
you'd say that. Yes. What? What
What has
risk
been the
have you not?
highlight?
Yes. What has been the highlight? I figured you'd say recovery. Is that your answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Next question. What risk have you not taken that you would still like to take, and why haven't you?
What risk have I not taken and why have I not? What risk? I have no idea. I have no idea, Holley. What risk have I
Okay.
not taken?
Maybe you've taken all your risks. Next question. We can come back. Do you have any nicknames or pet names? I already know the answer to this one. Do you have any nicknames or pet names? Yes, you do.
Do I have any nicknames?
Yes. Juju.
For me?
Yes. Yes. Any other one? Okay. There you go.
Any what?
Okay. Y- Any nicknames or pet names, but we already know Juju and Jules.
Jules. That's it.
Yeah. Any other ones?
Not for me.
Okay. What person, living, dead, or character do you most relate to and why?
Living or dead? I most relate to and why? You should have given me these beforehand.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I mean, because it's like character.
Well, living, dead, or
I
character.
don't have a fucking clue.
Oh my God. All right. We can come back to that one. Who do you admire and why?
Who do I admire?
Yeah.
I would probably have to say my girlfriend, Rachel. Does that count? Or does it have to be famous?
No, it can be anybody.
Okay.
Why do you admire her?
Well, because, she just turned 50 and she
Okay.
did this photographic spread for her husband. It is like, my God. I mean, I just admire her for her courage and just her outlook on how hard she's worked to, get her body in shape. Just everything that she plays piano, she plays guitar, she has a 17-year-old daughter. I just really admire her for who she is, who she's
Well, that's
become.
awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay, so this is a trick question. What is your biggest mistake or regret and why? And I say that because usually our mistakes turn into opportunities, our learning opportunities. So, what has been your biggest mistake or regret and why?
I would say that my biggest mistake or regret was becoming a convicted felon. Why? Because it has limited me in business, and also has limited me in being able to protect myself.
But you've been able to expand in your jewelry
I've been
in your creativity.
I go into, well, that's true, but I've been able to carry a message of my past to women that are locked up.
Right.
I go to the
You've
local jail here every month.
Yeah, you've been able to expand yourself in other ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what is your
Yeah.
favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Mine too. Mine too. Okay, so what is your ethnicity or your heritage? Do you know? I'm pretty sure you know.
I'm Italian.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm Italian. Full blooded.
Yep, I know that. I've run into that. Thank you very much. Okay, what would you hope your higher power, God, or the universe would say to you when you pass or transition or die?
Job well done.
Good. I'm sure that's what he's going to say. So that's it. So thank you so much, Julie. I'm so good to see you. And I appreciate you being vulnerable and coming on here and telling us, everything and sharing all of that stuff. And then your recovery and being so detailed and especially with all the hard stuff and about Scott and your dad, but and you've overcome a lot of stuff. But I know it helps a lot of people because you can walk through so much stuff. And I've seen you walk through a lot of stuff. You've helped me walk through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm still
And we'll
here.
continue to help each other.
That's right. That's right. So
Yep.
thank you. Thank you for helping me still be here.
Thank you. And I love
You're one
you.
reason. I love you too. I love you more.
Not possible.
Yes, it is. It is possible. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us for this episode. And please stay tuned for the next one. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Julie. Take care.
Okay, sweetheart. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, bye.